Howdy mates, here's a part 4 video. This is still over at the Ollie's Pond Park. Now, this time you actually have an even better view of the entire pond this time. So, noticeably while I was here, I ran into some common gallinule, some American coot, which are the ones with the white beaks, a great blue heron, right over here, and even some blue-winged teals, which literally have a little sliver of blue feathers, and they are a type of duck that's around here. Daffy would be proud, by the way. So, that's not the focus of the video, though. That was just to point out some wildlife that I have seen here so far, anyways. But at parks like these, people sometimes get so intrigued by the wildlife that is here that they're very tempted to feed the wildlife. Now, much as exciting as that can be, it's actually something not very recommended to do. Because to start off, what we may commonly feed them, whether it be bread, sandwich meat, whatever, food that we commonly consume, it's not really part of the wading bird's diet. Thus, it can actually be harder on their digestive system, and it can cause them to be sick even easier. Now, commonly, when we're sick, or even wildlife, it actually can make them more susceptible to getting sick, from various diseases. And not only that, but, fecal matter, that has plenty of disease carriers in it. And usually the more the wildlife is fed, the more defecation can occur. Thus, it can make us and the other wildlife more subject to disease. So yes, it can make them sick. It can really harm their digestive system, as it's not part of their diet. And another thing too is it gets rid of the natural fear that wildlife has for humans. Thus, it can subject the wildlife to being taken advantage of quite easily, depending on, the person's intent. Not only that, it can also create a bit of a liability issue. Because then the wildlife is relying on people for food. And it gets rid of their natural role of hunting and obtaining food on their own. And that's the thing. You can't make wildlife dependent, or else they will not survive in the natural world. And another thing too, as soon as other animals know that, food is available easily, it can actually create competition between different species. And it can also raise aggression between them. So it even adds more unnecessary stress. And oftentimes, it's not ideal. Because then, with more stress, makes them more susceptible to getting sick. So it's all what you call a vicious cycle. It's basically a cause and effect. So like when there's more fecal matter, for instance, that can create more nutrient pollution in these ponds. So the point that I'm really trying to make to you guys, as much as it is tempting to feed our wildlife, please don't. And not only that, feeding wildlife is also illegal in the state of Florida. Not just for wading birds, but for all wildlife, even alligators too. And not only that, also harassing wildlife is also illegal. To be honest, that should be a thing in every single state. So really, it's just best to let wildlife stay wild. Oh. So, give me just a second, you guys. Okay. So there's a slight change of subject from our wildlife, our homies. I wanted to point out this particular tree. I'm sure many of you have seen these, but for those of you who aren't sure, this is something called a bald cypress. Now, a really good area too to see a lot of bald cypress is in the Everglades. And actually, as a matter of fact, hopefully, within the next couple of weeks, I can actually take a trip down to the Everglades. It's always been on my bucket list. And not only that, but I was actually invited by a very well-known individual, Betty Osceola. She actually invited me to go on a camping trip down there later this month, or going into March. So from someone like her, as a well-known Miccosukee leader in her region, you know I can't turn down that invitation. But the bald cypress is one of the only known deciduous conifers in the world. As you can see, for this time of the year, you can tell that some of the leaves have already fallen, and it's still even in the process of happening. Now, when you look at the leaves, too, they are a bit coniferous. Just reminds you of looking at a bunch of needles right here, and they do change color over time. Usually these colors that you're seeing are something called keratins. That is essentially the true pigment of the leaf, because usually what creates that green pigment that you're seeing in some of them, that's the chlorophyll. So, you know, for those of you who are up north, when you see those orange, brown, yellow colors of the leaves, those are the true pigments of the leaf, because those are the keratins. Now, what you actually see up there are the reproductive cones. They're only like the shape of a little ball, basically. They're not like your, complex cones that you would see on, say, white pine, for example. Yeah, so here you go. This is what they basically look like. This is kind of like a cross section of one. But yeah, you'll see those here and there in this part of Florida, but usually the further south you go, the more you see them in Florida. But they do have a wide distribution, as I have seen plenty of these up in Florida, or up in Ohio, my home state. And then, right down here, we've got something called the cypress knees. That's another common characteristic of the tree. It's the initial formation of the buttress, which is essentially the foundation. Now, research is still being done as to why bald cypress behaves this way, because it is indeed a very complex growth pattern that even advanced arborists are still trying to figure out. So you could say it's a very versatile tree as well. There's no other tree like it. It's alright, you guys. Thank you for watching my video, and hope you received something educational and of value. So, thank you guys for watching. So, alright, you guys, take care. Enjoy your Wednesday, and Journey on a Journey is outwards. Take care, folks. See ya.